Well, I'd give Margaret a quick introduction. She's probably the most famous thatched dweller in Ireland, if not the world, and her charming house is probably the best on Thatched cottage. Margaret, do you get fed up with the fame?
Not really. I'm very proud of my house because it shaped who I am. It's my identity. I was born under Thatch on a Monday morning, the 26th of January 1942 at 9:05 under this roof. I mean, several coats of thatch since that. My father had been born in it in 1888. So it goes back a long way, and it's made me who I am, and I'm very aware of the treasure that I own.
You haven't compromised at all. You haven't got the electricity or the water mains.
No, because the more infringement you make on a house like this, the less authentic it is. It was always two rooms, an upper room, which is a bedroom, and an under room where I sleep, and the Robin, who's coming in regularly, stays there, and the kitchen. The kitchen is the room we're in now, and it basically is the lifeblood of the house because it hosts a fire. The fire's on the floor, as you can see, and the floor continues outside to allow for drainage. The architects of old were highly intelligent. They didn't have a lot of letters after their name. Architects now have more letters after their name than in their name, but yet they wouldn't be aware of how this house really was formed and the necessity of keeping it alive. Because a house like this needs a fire continuously, morning and night in the winter as well, to keep the timbers dry. The timbers are nailed, they're plugged, which means they're plugged with other pieces of timber, and if the house gets damp, the timbers start to wilt and the house comes down. The house the Jack built falls, and the way things are going with the very inclement summers we're getting, except last year, and then it dried too quickly and it didn't do any good for the thatch. The incessant rain, which is not normal in my lifetime, and then the prevailing westerly wind disrupts the thatch as well. So I have all these hazards. It's my solitude, it's my comfort, but it also has problems that nobody that would call with me would see, because it's like everything else, unless you wear the shoes, you can't say they hurt. And the biggest hazard in winter is the snow, like I had a week, 10 days ago. We had heavy snowfall and it wrecks the house weight-wise because, as I said previously, the timbers are nailed and they're so old, they're original bog oak. And they're roughly hewn, so the slightest slip and the house is in. But the heavy snowfall has to be taken off the roof night and morning, and I had that to do about 10 days ago, and I'm 81 in a few months now, so I did it, thank God.
How do you do it?
I bought a long fishing pole and I put a brush to the end of that, and I go around each layer, the 26 in the front of the house and the 27 in the back, or the other way around, I can't remember which is which now, and go layer by layer and take it off before it freezes, because once it freezes, more snow will come, and then the roof twice as heavy. And the real danger is when it's thawing. So when I hear a snow coming, I shiver. When I hear of a thaw coming, I shiver doubly, if there's such a thing. Houses will not live without a good fire and a good roof. It's as simple as that. And I have kept the house meticulously since the day I was able to do it, and my father before me. Yeah. But I'm able for it so far. I've had 81 years and a couple of months, and thank God for having lived so long and it's staying solid. I'm very careful with the fire. Actually, the day that I had His Royal Highness Prince Edward here, I had a dress specially bought for the occasion of him coming, and he kept saying, "You're swishing round there near the fire, that dress will catch fire." I thought, he was so full of common sense and wisdom. Yeah. I'll tell you, his mother would be so proud of him, because he inherited everything that she had. I'm talking about in wisdom and stoicism, nice? Yes. He made the tea himself for us, and he had some of my homemade bread. Lovely. And he was lovely. It was such a special treat for me to have him. It was the best thing. It really was one of the best things in my life. That and being in the palace, getting my MBE from Prince Charles, who is now His Royal Highness King Charles.
Well, tell me, how often have you had to rethatch?
Well, it used to be thatched originally with rushes, and it was locals did the thatch, and they were absolutely brilliant. There was Willie Ho, there was Gustin Mellor, two brilliant thatchers, neighbours. There was loads of local thatch. Then people got away from thatching because everyone was getting a different type of roof done. So the houses then were being listed, and I was listed, I think it was a B plus first, and I was a grade A. And they were giving grants, which was great. The grants were absolutely a godsend to people like me. But my problem with the grants is there was a very short window for applying for a grant, and it was usually in the winter time. And anyone who knows anything, getting back to my academia of the architects of long ago, you wouldn't be thatching a house in winter. You wouldn't even be asking a thatcher to tender for it in the winter. And all these clauses was making it more difficult for someone like me. I think someone needs to sit down and look at it realistically, or interview someone who has lived in it, and that they will look at all the things that's wrong. And that's not saying that I wasn't grateful for every penny I got, because the house wouldn't have lived had I not got a grant. And the same applies today. It's as simple as that. If they want the traditional representation of vernacular architecture, which attracts so many visitors, they talk about tourism, should be here some days. You wouldn't be well with all the tourists you'd have. So they have to look at all angles. And if they want to save these type of properties, they have to sit down and talk to people who need thatchers. They have to talk to thatchers, and they have to form a forum of some sort with expertise from people who live under thatch.
What type of straw?
This time it's a mixture of straw. I had rye straw, I had wheat straw, I had various straws. The very first coat of thatch on this is the flax. Derrylin was a flax growing area in County Fermanagh. In actual fact, the king reigning at that particular time bought his flax from County Fermanagh. I have flax coat preserved on the roof. I can show it to you later on where it is. I kept the first coat open that people will see it. So it's living heritage, but it's only living as long as it'll be water bound, as long as the water doesn't come in.
Have you ever had leaks?
Yes, the first place the house leaks is there on the back stone. So far with this coat of thatching, I have no leaks, but I can see that there are places where the birds are tearing. My biggest fear is the pine marten. The pine marten's around the house, but he hasn't got to the roof yet, and that's just through sheer praying that he'll stay away.
What would he be after on the roof?
To get in to warm himself and get in to raise a family, possibly. Yes, I haven't had one, thanks be to God, and you'd only have one because he'd do damage, and that'd be it.
Margaret, you cook the traditional way?
Yes, I do. Bread. I do my bread baking and everything over the fire. First of all, I would get the pot lid and I would put it over the fire until it would get very warm, and then I would my cake tin out. And I would bake the traditional mixture, and I'd put it in the cake tin. I'd have the oven hanging on the crook. This is a pot oven. The lid would be warm enough to put on the oven. Now I will get my coals, and I would go around the top of the lid with this. With the coals like that there, that's how I'd make the bread. I suppose the time's coming when I'll not be able to do it, but at least I've done it for a long while.
Did you cook meat and roast?
I do, yes, I do it in the smaller oven. This one here is for boiling the water for my hot water bottles at night.
Oh, lovely, yeah.
And the Matthew's twin sister is here for my dinner.
And this, your mother cooked on that, of course?
Yes, she did, yes, she did. She was a great baker. She made apple tarts, but she also made apple cakes, which was soda bread with apples and stewed apples in the centre. It was absolutely gorgeous. But unfortunately, she didn't live long enough to give us any of her skills. When I was 10, she died, very sadly, at 48 years of age. Left an old man with 2 children, which was tough for a 12-year-old, but that was it. Life throws up many a thing.
Coped.
He did, he coped great. Fantastic. He
Was
really
he a
was.
farmer? Or?
He was small farmer. 2
Yeah.
cows, yes, here, yes. You had to milk the cow, which was my job, and feed the calves, bucket feed the calves. We had the hay to do and the bog to do. Everything had to be done. My father wasn't able, so my sister and myself had to do it. And then she went away to work to keep the pot boiling here.
And you cut your own turf. You had your own
Yes,
moss bank,
yes,
hadn't you?
we had the turbary rights. Now I have a neighbour who cuts the turf for me and saves them for me and brings them home for me. That's a good neighbour.
Have you ever had a cricket there?
We had crickets when I was young. Yes, but that's a long time ago. I'm 81 in a couple of months.
Stay.
Oh yeah, so we didn't. Grief, you stood on a cricket, you'd be half killed. They were very precious little creatures, and they had a habit of retaliating if you did stand on one. Farmers that time, including my father, used to hang socks on the crook to be nice and warm for morning, and the cricket would eat them. Crickets. There was no such thing as one cricket. You'd have about 30 crickets, a family of crickets, and they were all round the hearth. The minute the fire was raked at night, raking is a principle, an old Irish principle of flattening the fire, putting ashes over it, putting a layer of tuff on it, another layer of ashes, and the fire's alive in the morning. The old Irish people who came from houses like this were so sensible. They knew the history of the area, they knew exactly what would fit them, and it wasn't a one size fits all. You know, the door always had to be east facing, you had all these things to look at, and they were wonderful.
Timmy, did the crickets make noise all the time?
They did, not only when you went to bed at night, no, not during the day. You never seen them during the day. They went into the cracks, you see, because the hearthstone is full of cracks, and they disappeared. You're the first person who's ever asked me about crickets. They disappeared in the cracks, and then when you go to bed at night, they were chirping.
Yes.
And nobody was afraid of them, and they were quite sizable. You know, they were quite sizable.
Very bad luck, wasn't it?
It was. We counted bad luck. Yeah.
But they must have loved the heat.
It must have been, but it wasn't in the fire. There was in the flags around the fire. If you look at the cracks round there where the pot oven is now, that's where they disappeared down there.
I wonder how they live now.
I don't know what happened that they left. I mean, they certainly weren't abused or interfered with because they were very, very precious. Yeah, but you lived with nature.
Yeah.
You weren't out, you know, nobody dreamed of going out and shooting something. You know, a pheasant was let run wild. There's no one going to, you know, starvation kill a pheasant for a dinner. We had a donkey. All the time.
The donkey was a valiant member of the
staff. He was, what are you talking at the main? He was upstairs. He wasn't downstairs. He was great, yes. Sure, they were gorgeous. Nothing as nice as a donkey.
That's right.
We never had a goat. I love a little goat now, but we never had a goat because my father used to say a goat makes bad neighbours. He'd thieve and everything.
That is true.
And I agree with them because the neighbours had goats there, and one of them was a little thief. Lovely,
Yes.
gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And sit and look at them all day. But the animal kingdom is very important. It's here for a reason. I live for keeping my home together. And it's getting harder by the day. There's no good saying it. Well, of course it is. With my, years, I'm not young. The house is not young. Ours is a very basic house, very, very basic thatched dwelling.
Yeah, absolutely perfect.
Perfect for me. Perfect,
Works
absolutely
so
brilliant.
well.
Yes, it does. I love it, and that's it.